let's jump in to what was obviously the signature game of the weekend. It was that top 15 showdown, Coleman Coliseum, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where the Tennessee Vols traveled to Alabama to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Both teams ranked in the top 15. Both teams tied atop the SEC standings. It goes without saying, you don't have to be great at math to know the winner of this game was going to have first place in sole possession with a week and a half to go of the SEC. And on Saturday night, the Tennessee Volunteers did it. They went into Coleman Coliseum and got the win 81-74. And when I look at this game, first of all, listen, this was kind of like, I'm just going to say it. Yes, I talk a lot about myself, but my name's on the show, right? This was kind of one of those like draw the line in the sand games for me. Because I've been saying since the rosters came together last spring, I said I truly believe that Tennessee is the best team in the SEC. To take it a step further, I've also said all year, I think this is Nate Oates' best coaching job because he doesn't have a Herb Jones. He doesn't have a Brandon Miller. He doesn't have future NBA dudes up and down this roster. As a matter of fact, I think you might have a couple NBA players, but they're a year or two away. Grant Nelson isn't declaring after this year. I think he'll come back for another year. Mark Sears is not an NBA player. Sam Walters may get there, on and on. You get the point. But I thought Nate Oates was overachieving with this group. I thought Tennessee was the best team, but I thought Tennessee, we talk about them nonstop. If you are a true national title contender, go to Tuscaloosa and show the world beat Alabama. Now, that's not to say if they didn't win that I'd be tearing them apart, but I thought this was such a signature win. But I'll take it a step further. I also think it was a signature win, not just because they won, but because of how it happened. On Friday's show, we talked about Dalton Knecht potentially being National Player of the Year. Obviously, I don't think that he did anything to hurt himself on Saturday. I don't think he did anything to help himself. I still think there's 2 weeks left in the season. Zach Edey is in the driver's seat, but I don't think Dalton Knecht is that far behind. But what's interesting about this game, Dalton Knecht was in foul trouble, finished with 13 points in this game. And you know why Tennessee won? They won for the reasons that I told you they were going to win. And that is because this is the best, most unique Tennessee team of the last couple of years. What do I mean by that? They are a team that has a star in Dalton Knecht offensively, but then as important, they also still play really well defensively. And I think that's what's been lost this year with the Dalton Knecht hysteria, is that this team is still really good defensively. Came into the weekend number 2 in field goal percentage defense, only behind Houston, and that is exactly what we saw on Saturday. It wasn't Dalton Knecht. It was the defense that took care of business against an Alabama team that had scored 90-plus points in its last 5 games. They hold them to 74 points, 38% shooting, 9 of 37 from the three-point arc. And so this to me, and I've been saying it since the beginning of the year, this is why I believe this Tennessee squad is different. Because when you look at this Tennessee squad, what you see is all of the best elements of previous years with this newfound thing of a dude that can literally get you 40 on any given night. Tennessee in this game proved if they need to win by clamping down on defense, they can do it. But at the same time, they can also win a game like they did at Rupp Arena a few weeks ago when they had to put up 102 points because Kentucky put up 95. And so when I look at this Tennessee team, I do believe it's different. I do believe that this is the best Rick Barnes team that he has had since he has gotten to Tennessee. And while it certainly doesn't guarantee anything, I'm also going to say something that's going to be a little bit controversial, but I don't really care. I'm just going to say it. I am rooting for Rick Barnes, and I am rooting for Tennessee in this NCAA tournament. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a Vol fan, doesn't mean I'm a homer, doesn't mean that I hate your team. But I think the narrative about Rick Barnes is honestly freaking ridiculous. Okay, so first of all, listen, Tennessee has great basketball history. I'm not saying they don't. Bruce Pearl, Allen Houston played there. There's a lot of history at that school. But think about everything that Rick Barnes has done since he's been there. He's won an SEC regular season title. He won the SEC tournament title in 2022. Oh, by the way, he's produced lots of NBA players. Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield was there for a minute. Whoever, all sorts of NBA players. He had a top 5 recruiting class at Tennessee. He has done everything. He has beaten everybody. He has an insane record against John Calipari. I think he's won his last 3 against Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. So the guy has done everything. But the one thing that he hasn't done, you already know. He hasn't had that deep NCAA tournament run. By the way, it's worth noting, Tennessee's made the Sweet 16 2 of the last 4 NCAA tournaments. But at the same time, this is the thing that has always held over his head, always held over this program's head, and always held over anybody who talks about them. Because I'll tell you, I'm in the national media, and anytime I say anything nice about the Tennessee Vols, you know what everybody says to me? Well, Torres, that's great that they beat this team or that team or blah, 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 or this and that. But Rick Barnes doesn't win in March. It's like, well, 1, he does. 2, he hasn't made that deep run. But 3, let me say this. How is the standard of the guy being bad at his job or overrated at his job that he has never done something that has literally never been done in school history? That makes no sense. Like if Fox hired me to do a TV show and they said, we want you, the expectation is you have to be number 1 in your time slot, even though we've never been number 1 in this time slot. And if not, you're overrated and you're terrible at your job and you stink and we don't care about anything else. I'd be like, what are you talking? That doesn't even make sense. And so when we're talking about Rick Barnes, I'm not saying that he's perfect. I'm not saying that he hasn't had bad tournament losses. But what I am saying is I don't think he's getting the credit that he deserves for everything he's done because of this one thing that has never happened in Tennessee basketball history. I do think this team is different. I do think they're built different. I do think they're built better to have success in March. But I'll also say this, Vol fans, I'm not going to be the guy. I'm not going to promise anything. I'm not going to guarantee anything. It was funny. I was talking to our guy who runs our Torres on the Vols account. We started that account in 2021, and there have been 3 different instances since then where we think the Vols are built for something, and then it doesn't work out well. Let me put it that way. We had the 2022 basketball team that won the SEC tournament, hottest team going in. We know how that happened. We had the baseball team in 2022, bad boys of college baseball. You can still get those t-shirts at AaronTorresOnline.com. Obviously, they fell short of Omaha. And then last year in football, 2 seasons ago in football with Hendon Hooker. So I'm not going to go too far. I'm not going to say it's going to happen. I'm not going to say this is the year. But what I will say, I've been watching college basketball a long time. I know what it's like when a team has the look. I've seen that game against Alabama a million times where you're the slight underdog on the road. You're the better team, but can you really win? And then you do, and you build some momentum going into March. By the way, this happened with UConn last year. I'm not saying that's going to be the same for Tennessee, but I've seen this game. I've seen the game where you're down, where your best players in foul trouble, and you find a way to win because you're that team. And I'm really curious to see if Tennessee can be that. By the way, one last thing on Tennessee. A lot of Vol fans have asked me what I think about their potential for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. I think if they win out, they're getting it, right? First of all, you win out in the regular season. You're the SEC regular season champs. That would include a sweep of Kentucky, a sweep of Alabama, a win over Auburn. I don't even think it matters what you do in the SEC tournament. I suppose if you lost early, but even if you lost early, you're probably going to lose to an NCAA tournament caliber team, if you're the number 1 overall seed. What I'll also say, I don't think being a number 1 seed really matters that much unless you have the geographic advantage. So it matters for UConn because UConn has the opportunity to play its games, first and second round in Brooklyn, Sweet 16, Elite 8 in Boston. Not saying that will happen, but I'm saying that's what it's trending towards. That matters. If you're Tennessee, Would you rather be the 2 seed in, say, the Midwest or the South where you're a little bit closer? Or would you rather be the 1 seed somewhere else? Because I'm telling you right now, you're the 1 seed out west with Arizona. I've been to Arizona games at Staples Center, LA, where this Elite Eight and Sweet 16 are going to be. That will be 97% Arizona fans. They have a huge fan base in Southern California. So I don't think the 1 seed matters that much. I don't think Tennessee is going to jump UConn, Purdue, or Houston at this point. But credit Tennessee, man. That was a great, great, great win. They deserve all the praise. I really do feel like this thing is different. And I'm going to say it if nobody else will. I'm rooting for Rick Barnes. I hope he gets that monkey off his back.